Hey, everybody, this is the webinar that booked 57 sales calls. It's converted 250 people into 57 book calls at a 23.5% booking rate on a 25K offer. So that said, let's dive into the video.
Welcome everybody. I'm calling in from Asuncion, Paraguay, here in South America, from Canada originally. I mean, in this digital world that we're in, let us know where you're calling in from in the chat. We have a lot of high-level founders here today. I mean, we have a lot of folks anywhere from the $250,000 a year range all the way up to 5, even 10 million per year joining the webinar today. So use this as a community. Let us know in the chat what your business is, what you do, and what you want to get out of today's webinar, right? I mean, what would need to happen for you in the next 45 minutes for this to be a win for you? You're going to get out of this what you put into it. So the more that you engage in the chat, the more that you invest, the more that you're present, the more that you're going to get out of this, because we are going to be talking about technology that's going to transform your business and how to use AI today in a way that produces revenue today, right? We're not going to be talking about some pie in the sky, like, wishy-washy theory or what the future could look like. We're going to be talking about what the future looks like today and how you can implement this into your business. So let us know in the chat what you want to get out of today. And we're going to be talking about how you can use this without you becoming the bottleneck. I mean, we're at a real inflection point today with AI. What used to require large teams, tons of people, constant manual effort can now be handled by systems. Now, it's a lot like 2008 in social media, where there's two types of founders. There's those that became consumers and builders. And so what I want you to ask yourself today is what type of founder are you? Are you going to be a consumer like the ones that in 2008 got addicted to social media? Now their attention spans are like goldfish and they can't hold, they zone out after 10 seconds? Or are you going to be a builder? Are you going to be one that fully take advantage of the opportunity that you have today to build an unfair competitive advantage? So the question that you have the question that you want to answer, and the question that AI answers for founders, is it's not just about cutting costs. It's about how do you accomplish things that are 10 times more ambitious than you thought were possible. But with that assumption in mind, most founders don't know how to turn it into something that's usable inside of their business. So what do most people do, right? And by the way, folks, if you're a founder of a B2B tech company or B2B professional services business, you are in the right place. Now, for those founders, they try one of three things, right? They either ignore AI, they get overwhelmed trying to figure it out, or they use it in ways that don't move, and actually create revenue. Like you're still talking to ChatGPT or Claude, right? Now, this webinar is not what you've seen before, right? I'm not gonna be demoing Claude Code, or I'm not gonna be teaching you how to use, ChatGPT or Codex or how to automate content. I'm gonna teach you how to build an end-to-end system that uses agentic AI to do things that we actually care about, like booking qualified sales calls, and how you could book 3 to 5 times more sales calls today without using paid ads or hiring more people. And with that, you're going to be able to turn your expertise into qualified calls at scale on autopilot, where it only takes you 3 hours a month to run this system, right? It's going to generate consistent qualified calls, cut the manual effort required to run it, turn your expertise into something that actually runs on autopilot so you can go back into running your business. Now, why should you listen to, why should you care about what I have to say? Well, my name's Scott. I'm president here at QS, and I've spent over $20 million in ads, and I've had an exit. I still had one exit under 30, selling my last agency. Now, what I'm going to be talking about today is, and I'm going to be showing you clients booking calls using AI, while others are booking dozens of calls every week, and everything that we've learned deploying these systems across 1,500 businesses. Who here is excited to learn more about that? Give me a one in the chat. I'm not seeing enough ones in the chat. Guys, I'm gonna stay on this slide until I see more engagement. Give me ones. There we go. So, you don't just have to take my word for it, right? Forrest closed a 12K per month, 12.5K per month deal off of one of his first webinars using this system, and now he's booking 9 to 11 sales calls every single week. Olivier is booking 10 qualified calls every week using this system. So, and for us, we're using this to produce $200,000 to $250,000 every single month in revenue. And here's what the numbers that this produced last September. So first, we're going to be talking about what's actually keeping most founders stuck, how to fix it, and then how to implement this system, right? So stick through to the end because we're going to be walking you through exactly how to implement it. And I have two bonuses for you. I'm going to be sharing with you our 19-page webinar playbook that's produced, that our clients over the last 15 months using us have produced over 20 million in revenue, as well as 15 months of research, finding and refining the best prompts for top performing content. Now, like I said, this webinar is for consultants, agencies, SaaS, expert-led businesses, and if you're selling high ticket, you're already generating revenue, but maybe your pipeline is unpredictable. So if your pipeline is unpredictable, usually it falls down to three problems, one of three things, right? And those of you who are here, you fall into one of these three camps. Number one, lead volume is low and inconsistent. You have a system that kind of works, but your lead quality is not very good. And then or number three, there's just too much trial and error, time consuming, busy work. Let me know, like, which one do you fall into? One, you don't have enough lead volume. Two, lead quality is poor. And then three, too much trial and error. Let me know in the chat. Give me 1, 2, or 3. So now, for those of you who answered one, problem is volume, and you don't have enough consistent qualified leads. And so what happens? Usually, you're probably relying on referrals. Your outreach isn't consistent, or you're posting content on LinkedIn, but it's just not booking calls, right? And so what happens? It puts you in this feast or famine roller coaster where some months you might get 5 or 6 deals, and then you might be waiting another 6 months before you get your next call. Who here can relate to that, right? I know I can. And when I've been there and I'm worrying about payroll or who I'm going to pay the next bill, it feels like eating glass, right? It feels like an insurmountable pressure where not only got to provide for my family, I got to provide for other people's families too. Now, for those of you that are in camp number 2, you get calls, but they're just not ready, right? You get on the call and they're almost like, or you get on the Zoom and they say like, who are you? Why should I care? Pitch me, right? They're skeptical. It feels like pulling teeth to try to get them to close. And then you're there babysitting people through the sales process, having to, spoon feed every step of the way just to convince them to take another call with you. And then lastly, how do people try to solve this? And usually it's just endless trial and error, right? Where they're testing random tactics, hoping something sticks, nothing connects, nothing compounds. You're just flying by the seat of your pants. You see a new post on LinkedIn and you say, okay, that's what I need to do next. And then, or you're doing everything manually and you're taking 40 hours a week just to book calls. Nothing's predictable, and you don't have anything that you can turn up a knob on demand where you're having to brute force it. So then all this energy goes into trying to crack the code instead of building the business that you dreamed of when you started. Now, all these things are just symptoms of one thing. The fact is that you just don't have a system. Now, today I'm going to be showing you exactly how an end-to-end AI system works that can work without you. So strap in, put your phone away. That's right, I'm talking to you. Put your phone away and pay attention, be present, because like I said, you're going to get out of this what you put into it. So first, let's look at 10,000 feet, and then we're going to zoom in on the little details. So first, I'm going to be talking about how to identify your market, how to capture your market, how to build trust with hundreds of thousands of people at the same time. And then I'm going to show you how to build a machine around it. Who here is excited to learn more about this? Give me a 1 in the chat. Now, what I'm not going to be talking about, I'm not going to be talking about like another, growth hack or gimmick. We're going to be talking about how to use AI to do things that are 10 times more ambitious than you thought were possible, and how to apply that principle to something we really care about, which is revenue, at booking 3 to 5 times more sales calls without ads or hiring more people. So if you're excited and you want to jump ahead to the beginning of the line, right? We only have limited slots available, and you want to see exactly how this works and how this could be deployed into your business, then go ahead, scan the QR code, click the link, find a time, select a time, and our team will put together a personalized roadmap that plugs into everything and it plugs into everything that I'm about to be showing you today, and put together a custom, unique strategy and roadmap for your business that consultants charge $15 to $10,000 for before. That just for joining today is our gift to you. And these slots are not going to be available because we have a lot of high-level founders in the chat, and what we're about to show you is going to be groundbreaking. So how does this actually work, right? For those of you that are still not convinced yet, let's show you exactly how you can deploy this into your business and make this the highest value out of executive time. So first step is accessing your market. Now, it doesn't matter if you have the best product in the world, right? The fact is you need to get your product or service in front of the right buyers. So let's look at an example. Let's say we want to target fractional CFOs or SaaS companies, right? You need to be able to find every one of these founders in that stage of their growth and that stage of their business, and then how to connect to them, right? So let me ask you guys a question. Do you folks have all the emails, LinkedIn's, and websites of every single one of your ideal customers? Let me know in the chat. There's no wrong answer. There's no judgment. But the fact is, for 99.9% of businesses, the answer is no. So, and say, but Scott, I know who my customer is, right? Well, knowing your market is not the same as having access to it. Without access, you're still back at square one, where you're stuck on inbound leads or just hoping and praying that one of your clients has a referral for you, and that doesn't scale. So, and that's why you're here today. Now, in order to reach you need to be able to reach your entire market on demand. So let's talk about what that looks like and how do most people try to solve it, right? Usually there's buy a list of tens of thousands of people. They pay ZoomInfo 27 grand, or maybe you're one of the smart ones, and you go on Upwork, you contact a gentleman in Karachi, Pakistan, and you buy a list, and then you blast everybody, right? Technically, yeah, you have access to your market, but we ran this experiment on ourselves where we bought 100K wealth management contacts from Apollo. We ran an exhaustive, deep research campaign on all of them. Here's what we found: only 20% of them were actually the target market. Another 80% was a random hodgepodge mix of brokers, accounting firms, law practices, or SaaS companies. So what actually happens? Like, let's say, okay, we got the list. Let's go blast 100,000 people. At best, they ignore you. At worst, you feel like a spammer, and you're wondering, you're questioning yourself, like, well, what is this really where I've come to? Is this really where I'm at in order to generate business? And the fact is that in 2026, this no longer works. So in order to get full access to your market, you need to identify your buyers, the folks who actually need you today, right now. So how do you do that, right? And the problem before is that most marketing is optimized for volume. So you need to be able to optimize for who's most likely to buy today. So how do we do that? How do you do that? First, you need to identify the industry, revenue, their decision-making role. And then you need to identify the signals, right? They just hired a VP of sales. They've raised 12 million Series A. Their headcount is up over the last 90 days. They're looking at they're looking at the pages of your competitors. CEO posted about pipeline, right? These are the types of signals that you need to be looking at in order to find your ideal buyers today, right? Now, going back to what I said, right? AI and using AI to unlock what used to never be possible, and be able to do things that are 10 times more ambitious than they were even just 6 months ago or a year ago, right? I mean, would it be possible for you to manually check the websites, read content, and analyze every situation 1,000 times over before in the past? No, of course not. So that's how you capture the entire market. First is you look at the list, then you enrich the list by looking at their tech stack, headcount, funding. Then you look at the behavior, right? The hiring, where are they looking? What other buying signals do they have? Like hiring intent, funding, etc. And then you filter them, right? You filter them to put together a concrete list of who is most likely to buy today. So the first step for you is to install this, right? You need to have a map of where your entire market actually lives, the signals that identify what leads are most likely to buy right now, and the infrastructure to be able to pull all of those contacts. Now, if without this in place, right, everything is so much harder than it needs to be. I mean, we ran this experiment on ourselves where like I said, in that previous list example of 100K contacts, it took us 10,000 emails to generate one single sales call. Is that really the type of business that you want to build? Is that really the the marketing that you want to be running in 2026? Of course not, right? Now, and obviously doing that method, you're not going to get their attention. So how do you actually get their attention in 2026? Now, the top founders know something that the 90% of people that are just cold blasting outreach don't know. And that playbook is failing. They're running cold emails, LinkedIn DMs, like, hey, quick question, or they send you an email with like the RE, like to make you think like, did I, like, to gaslight you into thinking like, did I reply to this? And then like, can I, bro, can I just get on a 15-minute call? Trust me, bro. Like, this is not going to work, and this is failing. And this is why, if this is a system that you're running, why your outreach is failing in 2026. Because how many of you get those emails, and how many of them actually reply to them, let alone get on the call? Now, I'm not advocating to not do outreach, but you need to be able to do it in a way that actually connects with the right audience and connects with your buyers. Now, where is an executive's attention actually the highest right now? Let me know in the chat. Where do you think it is? Now, those of you who have been on our previous webinars or on our series of webinars, but give it a shot. If you've seen our content as well, then I'm not talking to you folks. Now, obviously it's not email inboxes. We've already talked about that being saturated. It's not their LinkedIn. If the CEO is checking their social feed too often, you probably shouldn't invest in that company. The company's going in the wrong direction. But for high performing executives and your target market, the one thing that they're looking at every day is their calendar. That's where they organize their time. That's where they're looking every day, and that's where they protect. So the most powerful outreach mechanism in 2026 is sending them a calendar invite with personalized copy and personalized message. And I'm going to show you in a moment exactly how we do this, so stick around. Now, the beautiful part about this is that you're not begging or asking them for attention. You're putting yourself where their attention already exists. And this is exactly how most of you got here today, right? You may have thought like a calendar invited me, or, oh, hey, I saw this ad, but the reality is that we've gone through every single one of these steps to identify you and invite you to this webinar today. And we knew it would be relevant. And that's why you're listening right now. So, but the problem is that if the message is just generic, it still fails, right? People are demanding just a higher standard. People are demanding a higher standard where they want to be spoken to. They want to feel like you're speaking to them personally. And that's why you need to have every invite shaped by their company, their situation, their buying signals, and their personal context. But how do you do that? Like, how is it that you actually can do that to tens of thousands of people, right? So first step is they get the invite and then they receive the reminder emails. Now, oh, my bad, guys, whisper going off. So now, how is it that you actually do this at scale? Now, first we get the contacts, and then we personalize based on the company type, the host name, their ICP, like who it is that they are, their revenue range, as well as their specific buying signal to send them the invite. And here's what that looks like. Now, the invites fire continuously, and each one of them landing on a calendar in real time to a real executive without humans needing to be involved in the loop. And the best part is, once you get this system running, it books calls consistently at less than $15 per call. Now, nobody else is running all three of these things together. High probability targeting, high attention, blue ocean channel, and personalized context, tens of thousands of invites every single week. And again, it's not just working for us. I mean, Sheila sends out 2,000 calendar invites per month. She has 80 people show up to her webinar, and then 30 to 40 sales calls booked every single month, right? Like I said, when we ran this experiment on ourselves, we had one call booked for every 10,000 outreach. So who here is excited or wants to experience a transformation like this, right? Which type of founder are you? Are you going to be a consumer that lets this opportunity pass you by? Because your competitors are building this right now, right? Your competitors are building AI systems and they're capturing attention of your market. So are you going to be a consumer that watches that and lets that happen over the next 5-10 years? Or are you going to be a builder? Are you going to be somebody who hops on this trend early and builds an unfair competitive advantage where it's not just about, imagine your competitors are doing this, they're 10 times smarter than you and they 10x the headcount. That's the opportunity that you have in front of you today. So If you want to see what this looks like exactly for you and your business, go ahead, scan the QR code, click the link, find a time, select a time, and book yourself in. Yeah, book yourself in, and our team will show you present exactly a strategy that'll work for you and your unique business, regardless of whether or not you work with us. So you can take full advantage of this. But there's more, right? We've only gone through steps 1 out of 2. So step 3 is, how do you build trust with tens, hundreds of thousands of people in a given week, right? The problem is that most businesses do today, and the reason why 90% of cold outreach doesn't work is they just go right into, let's book a call, let's chat, let me show you what we do, right? Now somebody's asking you barely know to ask up on a call, right? You ignore it. And then if you have done this cold outreach before, and somebody does agree to a call, they're extremely skeptical. They don't understand what you do. They don't see why it applies to them. They're not sure you can actually help, right? And then you're expecting the entire burden of the conversation to get pushed on one call, a discovery call where you're forced to build trust, explain the problem, explain the solution, handle objections, convince them, and close. And for those of you who are doing this, you just see the numbers get worse and worse over time. I mean, would you propose to somebody on a first date? I know, red flags would be screaming at me to leave, and I'm sure you would too. But that's exactly what most businesses do, and why 90% of cold outreach fails. Now, in order for you to actually build trust to tens of thousands of people, you have to have one structured conversation with many people at once. And that's what a webinar is. Instead of you having to have 1,000 sales calls, you have one webinar and you speak to 1,000 people. And by doing that, people stop evaluating you and they start seeing you as the solution, because you can articulate their problem better than they can. You show them a new way of thinking and you connect the dots cleanly. So how do you design a webinar that actually converts, right? A lot of people just say, yeah, I'll throw some slides together and then share some value, or I'll educate the market, and then they end up putting together this long form, like essentially a research paper that nobody ends up paying attention to and nobody buys. And that's not what high performing webinars are. They're structured and they follow psychology, and more importantly, they have a defined story structure. Let me walk you through exactly what that means. 1, they introduce you to a problem. How do you reframe what they believe, right? Like, how do you build tension? How do you show the solution? How do you lead the audience towards the decision? And these are the details about decide whether somebody actually converts. Like, folks, if you need to hop off just because we're at close to the 30-minute mark and you want the 19-page, $20 million webinar playbook, type in playbook in the chat and our team will make sure that we send it to you, because this details 15 months of research on webinars that's taken all of our top performing webinar campaigns across 1,500 clients, and we've distilled it down into concrete insights that you can use to deploy in your webinars. And then we'll also show you how you can access this at the very end. So one specific example of this is we've tested live versus pre-recorded endlessly. Now, live consistently crushes, where you have 150 to 200 people attend per session, and 65% stay for 30 minutes or more, and then 25% stay for a full hour or longer. Versus something that's pre-recorded, you'd be lucky to get 5 minutes. You'd be lucky to get somebody to pay for 5 minutes, for somebody to pay attention for 5 minutes. Like YouTube, BSLs, funnel videos, whatever, right? 30 minutes just almost never happens. Now, the beautiful part about live is it goes against the grain of everything else that we're seeing today, right? You get the benefit of a full AI system doing out, steps 1 and 2, but you also get the personalization of having a human, right? And this is what people are craving, and this is going to become more and more valuable in the future because it's live, it's interactive, it's human, it feels real, and this is exactly why it builds trust. I don't know if you've seen one of those YouTube videos where it's just a pure AI. I watched for 2 seconds. I'm like, this is weird. I would stop watching this. I'm not interested. But everything that I've showed you today is only 10% of what goes into a world-class webinar. Now, we've run this system across 1,500 businesses, thousands of real webinars, and we spent $100K spent testing on which campaigns work and what don't work. Now, and it's not just working for us, right? Mark Angus from Genesis Global booked 3 sales calls off of his 3rd webinar. He had 43 people show up, and that, and he sent 15K in proposals as a result. Now, what does this mean for you? Is this is a repeatable system. So we've taken all the campaign data, every 1,500 one of our client webinars, we've looked at the copy, the headlines. So analyzed what headlines and what copy works for different ICPs, right? Every objection, 5 years of campaign data. So the AI brain knows what works and what doesn't work. So we've proven which hooks work, which slides convert, and how to produce a draft. That's 80% of the way there in less than an hour using this system. And this is exactly what Cedric deployed into his business, where he was making about 30K per month before, and now he's at 250K per month using this system. And he has 600 people showing up to his webinar each month, and he's booking 120 sales calls every month. Now, you'll say, Scott, but I could just spin this up with ChatGPT or Claude. Sounds great. Now, here's the problem with that: is that they're trained on the entire internet. If you're using ChatGPT, God forbid, God help you, because it's trained on Wikipedia. And you really want to trust Wikipedia with running your business? Of course not. So the reason why we built this brain is because it's trained on real world results. And in the future, this is going to be the only defensible thing to have in your business is data, which is why it is that we've architected this, and we spent tens of thousands of dollars building this, building out the backend infrastructure for us to know exactly what campaigns work for HR leaders, what copy works for HR leaders, what copy works for financial services, what are winning angles for financial services, what are the winning webinars for M&A, what are the winning webinars for sales, what are the winning webinars for marketing, right? And being able to distill all of this down so it knows all the angles and copy that convert. So now that's step 1 through 3. Now let's dive into step 4 for you to capture the full value of your market. So even if you do these 3 steps, right? You'll book sales calls, you'll book, and you'll probably close some deals. But are you closing all the deals that you could be? And the fact is that most people just don't book on day one. A portion of them book right away. A huge percentage are indecisive. Others drop off halfway, not because they're not interested, just busy. And if you don't have a system to capture those people, right? You might as well take $20 out of your wallet and then light it on fire. Because if you're spending all this time, money, and effort getting them to the 10-yard line, you're not following up with them, then you're missing out on most of the touchdowns you could be scoring. And a great business does one thing differently, which is they maximize the value of every lead, which means they follow up and they nurture. It's like, but Scott, yeah, that makes sense and all, but ain't nobody got time for that. And the fact is that there's a grain of truth there, and that is because manual follow-up doesn't scale, right? You might forget, your team forgets, you got to manage your team to follow up, and then it becomes inconsistent, which means that it breaks. And so you have to have an intelligent system to keep engaging with it, right? So somebody attends a webinar, stays for 45 minutes, they didn't book a call, right? Then there's an SMS, right? Yeah, honestly, it's been on my mind. Boom, follow up. Now, the best part is this doesn't feel like a conversation. It feels like a continuation. It doesn't feel like just like a checking in to touch base and follow up and see how you're doing. It feels like a continuation of the conversation. I don't know if you guys have ever worked on a sales floor, but that's always how I remember, the lowest performing reps to follow up is just touching in to check base, follow up, see how you're doing. So having an AI-powered voice agent to place the call, open the context from the brain, qualify them, and then book a call. Now, here's where the real upside comes in. You're not just capturing people ready right now, you're capturing everybody who becomes ready to buy later. Because only 3% of the market's actually ready to buy right now. What about the other 97%? So this is how it is that you can extract the full value of your entire market. And by doing all 4 of these steps is how you build an end-to-end AI system that works without you in a way that generates real revenue from real sales calls today into your business. So first, you have to identify the demand. Then you have to capture their attention. Then you have to build trust. And then you have to capture the full value over time. And once you have this in place, you're no longer operating on luck. You have a system that consistently turns your market into pipeline. And it isn't about one of these individual pieces in isolation. It's not about just like webinars or cold outreach or AI. This is about building an end-to-end system that closes the entire loop, where you show up, you deliver the webinar, you book calls, you rinse and repeat, and where it only takes 3 hours of time every single month to run. So if you want to see whether or not this is actually a fit for your business, then go ahead, scan the QR code, click the link, find a time, select a time, book a call where our team will walk you through, no harm, no foul, and see whether or not this actually is a fit for you, right? Because there's some markets that this doesn't work for, and we'll be the first to tell you that. Now, if you also want our prompt library, and we spent 50 months of researching the best prompts, then go ahead, scan the QR code, because we're going to include that in the bonus as well. And we're going to include an entire strategy and show you exactly what works for your business and what won't work for your business that consultants used to charge 15K for, but because of new technology, we just offer this for our clients, that you can plug directly into our AI brain and see what works for your business today. So before we wrap, I'm sure you're probably thinking, like, how long does this implementation actually take, Scott? Like, how much of my time, this sounds great, like 3 hours a month, like, I don't really buy it yet. And then, okay, what is this going to cost me? What's the price tag on this? Well, first questions first is, your first webinar is live in front of a real audience within 4 to 6 weeks. It depends on how fast you want to run it, right? We actually polled our clients and we asked them, hey, do you want to, we can get this running up in 3 weeks, but our clients said, actually, no, we prefer 4. And the vast majority of our clients actually book calls on their second webinar. So, and it's not just, you can't just do this. Like, even if we just gave you all the tools today, you still need a senior copywriter, a senior go-to-market strategist, and an integration specialist to put this together and deploy this into your business. And if you think, like, oh, Scott, but I don't know, I'm not an IT person. You don't need to be. This is a handheld, step-by-step build where we'll walk you through every step of the way what this looks like. And after every campaign, we feed it into our AI brain. Our AI brain tells us exactly where it is that we need to focus on, and then we also go through an additional layer of that through our team of copywriters, marketing strategists, and tech integration specialists to see exactly where to improve and what to get sharper on every single cycle. And at around 60 days on average, we see the first deals close. That's when you start seeing consistent sales calls come in every single month, and when things start to get predictable. And beyond that is when it stops becoming a campaign and it starts actually compounding. You know who's responding, you know what messaging is working in your market, and you know what's converting. So instead of just talking to ChatGPT and guessing and giving you its best educated guess, you're scaling with what's already been proven and what's already been refined and what we know already works in your target market. So across one of our clients, in their first 6 months, they had 1,410 webinars, or 1,410 attendees, and after 12 months, they had 4,440 folks attend their webinar. They booked 274 qualified calls in 6 months. After 12 months, they booked 880. In 6 months, they produced 306K euros in cash collected. In 12 months, it was 906K euros. And you can see exactly what their journey looked like over time. But Scott, how much time does this actually take? Will this actually take me? Well, here's where you got me. The first month, it takes you 20 hours. It takes 20 hours of a dedicated lift to 20 hours of dedicated lift to get this running. After month 2, that's when it declines to about 9 hours. Month 3, about 6. And by month 4 is when this is a system that is running for 3 hours, 3 hours of your time every single month. So Jason Rodman, financial advisory for high net worth individuals. He was at a 200K run rate before annually. After that, he was at a 600. He grew from just about 15K per month to over 50K per month. 3x his revenue from where he started, taking him less than 3 hours per month of the system to maintain, where it's now running on autopilot. Now, a quick note on cost, right? I mean, this sounds great. What's the investment here? And once it's set up, it's actually very inexpensive to run. And that's why I joined quantumSCALE, is because I'd never seen a system like this before, right? And because it's not a paid media channel, this is primarily organic, where we're using single base targeting, earning their attention, and compounding the longer time that they run. Now, this takes $400 to $500 per month in total to run across data, a few pieces of software, as well as the infrastructure itself. So when you look at performance, most long-term clients end up paying under $100 per qualified call. Now, before, I invested in the S&P 500, I put $100 in. Maybe a year later, I have $108. Imagine you put $100 in and you get a qualified buyer to come out. Isn't that amazing? Now, we're not going to pitch you like, hey, you need to pay us a retainer for till between now and the end of time. This is something that we build with you. We plug it into your business, and then you own the infrastructure. We build it with you, you launch it, you get it working, and then you own it. And if you go through this process and you don't get results, we guarantee that we'll give you your money back. So, like I said at the beginning, you're at an inflection point, right? And it's not about the cost of doing this, it's about the cost of not doing this. Where do you really want to be in a world where your competitors are 10 times smarter than you, and they're moving like they have 10x the headcount? That's the cost of not doing this. And once they build up the infrastructure, they'll have an unfair competitive advantage. They're going to reach your market first. They're going to build trust more quickly, and they're going to close deals before you even talk, before your clients even know you exist. And so if you're not early on this train and you're not building these types of systems today, you're already late. Or you can keep relying on channels that aren't working. Your messages get ignored. Nobody pays any attention to the content that you've been trying off and on for the last few years, and you're relying on referrals that aren't scaling. And you can keep doing manual outreach to try to solve the problem. Keep trying and failing, or testing things that may or may not work. And the cost of that is time, right? I don't know about you, but I got into the business to get my time back. And that's time that you could be spent improving your offer, closing deals, scaling your business towards freedom for you and your family. So the bigger risk is, what if you stay exactly where you are 6, 12, 24 months from now? And the businesses that the builders over the next few years aren't just going to be the ones that are the best at what they do. They're the ones that build systems around it. So how long can you afford not to start building end-to-end systems today? If you want to see how this could work for your business, then go ahead, scan the QR code, click the link, find a time, select a time, pencil a time in, where a team will walk you through exactly whether or not this can work for your business. And if it can, then we'll show you exactly what works for your market, targeting your ICP, and regardless of whether or not you work with us or not, you'll at least have that going ahead into the future.